Thank you for joining us. It is a momentous occasion when we can come together to celebrate the achievements of two leaders at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. These virtual installation ceremonies are among some of the first at All Children's, with a half dozen more on the horizon. What a testament it is to our faculty to have the belief and support of philanthropic donors in the community and to be honored with named and endowed positions. It is with great excitement that we begin today's installation ceremony. First, we recognize Dr. George Jallow for his leadership of our Institute for Brain Protection Sciences and celebrate an esteemed career of helping the youngest, most vulnerable members of our community, our children. Establishing an endowment is a transformative act of philanthropy. Endowments ensure continuous and permanent financial support for the endowed shareholder. They also give prestige and recognition to the honorees who are so deserving. We are so grateful to our donors, the Goldenberg Family Foundation, for this extraordinary gift. You will hear directly from the Goldenbergs during this program and what inspired their support of Dr. Jallow as the inaugural David M. Goldenberg Family Endowed Chair in the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. As a relatively new member of the Johns Hopkins Medicine family, we are thrilled to establish and carry forth our own unique tradition of endowing faculty members who also hold joint appointments with the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. Dedications bring together the leaders within the larger Johns Hopkins Medicine family. So thank you to President Ronald Daniels and Dean Paul Rothman for the special remarks you will share about Dr. Jallow. Often I am asked when was the moment I knew I wanted to join the Johns Hopkins All Children's family. As I shared during the most recent installment of one of our team's favorite Zoom calls called Coffee with Jallow, it was actually my interview with George that I knew I was sold. George embodies everything I had heard about this great organization and brought it to life just within our hour together. A person of brilliance rivaled only by his humility. What stood out most to me about George was his commitment to family. In fact, after I met with George, I received a photo of him with his kids taken from their fishing trip that day. And I told my husband the opportunity to partner with George would truly be the professional opportunity of a lifetime. It was a rubber stamp that this organization was full of family, love, pride, collegial excellence through and through. Before we celebrate Dr. George Jallow, I invite Dean Rothman for the official presentation of the endowed chair to the university.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. On behalf of the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, I am honored to join you today to celebrate the dedication of the inaugural David M. Goldenberg Family Endowed Chair in the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences, and the installation of its inaugural chair, Dr. George Jallow. Endowed chairs are central to the Johns Hopkins mission. They help us ensure that we can reward and retain top faculty so that they can focus on what they do best, treating patients, doing groundbreaking research, and teaching the leaders of tomorrow. And these chairs are enduring. George, you have much more work to do, but I cannot help but to think of those who will follow Dr. Jallow in the years to come and proudly carry on this endowed chair and advance your work even further. The extraordinary generosity of Dr. David Goldenberg and his family has allowed us to establish this endowed chair. David, today we have begun a legacy for the Goldenberg Family Foundation and for pediatric medicine. Your family is the first to endow and induct an institute leader on this campus. So this is truly a historic day. You have seen yourself how George can affect the lives of his patients. Your granddaughter has been one of his patients, and now your generosity will allow George to continue to help many more patients for years to come. I would like to now turn to the recipient of this wonderful gift, George Chalo. George is the physician-in-chief at All Children's, as well as the director of the All Children's Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. The Institute is a multidisciplinary effort that brings together clinicians, researchers, and educators to study neurodevelopment and to provide the state-of-the-art care for children with brain diseases and injuries. An internationally respected pediatric neurosurgeon, he's also a professor of neurosurgery, pediatrics, and oncology at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. He's an expert on tumors of the brain and spinal cord, the surgical treatment of epilepsy, and many other areas. Over his tenure at All Children's, George has helped us make progress in all facets of our mission. George, we are so honored to have you on our faculty. George, I know you have many lofty goals for your patients, your research, your students, and for the Institute. I'm confident that this position will help you achieve that vision. Please accept my congratulations on the establishment of this endowed chair. You thoroughly deserve this wonderful honor. Because the endowment is held and administered by the university's trustees, professorships are formally presented to the university. For that, I'm going to turn things over to President Ron Daniels, who will say a few words. Ron?
Good afternoon. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to honor this moment for Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital and Dr. George Jallow. I'm delighted to join leaders from across our institution, including President Alicia Shuloff, Dean Rothman, and Dr. Henry Brem, Director of the Department of Neurosurgery at Hopkins Medicine. And of course, it is an honor to be joined by the person whose vision has made today possible, Dr. David Goldenberg. So, without further ado, I formally accept the inaugural David M. Goldenberg Family Endowed Chair in the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. Those of you who know him well know Dr. David Goldenberg as a pioneering medical researcher, a founder of a biopharmaceutical company, and the recipient of honors and awards. In short, a true visionary. But long before these breakthroughs and achievements, he was just a working-class kid from Brooklyn, albeit a particularly brilliant one, having been admitted to the University of Chicago shortly after his sophomore year of high school. In Chicago, David got his first introduction to medical research working briefly as a lab assistant to a PhD student. As he would later describe it, he learned two key lessons from that experience. The first lesson was naturally the fundamentals of research, and the second, as David put it, how to handle experimental mice in a lab without getting bitten too often. As David and George understand so well, path-breaking discoveries and revolutionary techniques don't emerge ex nihilo, but are in fact the products of countless hours of labor, tedium, and self-correction. Mastery, expertise, and real lasting innovation, in other words, often occur one mouse bite at a time. David Goldenberg's storied career is proof positive of this basic truth. Since those early days in Chicago, learning the ins and outs of laboratory life, he has done everything from pioneering techniques like radioimmunotherapy to helping develop groundbreaking antibody treatments, including the FDA-approved Trodelvy, a therapy for metastatic triple-negative breast cancer. I know that our inaugural Goldenberg Family Chair, Dr. George Jallow, shares with his professorship's namesake a devotion to achieving excellence and mastery through persistent study. A world-renowned pediatric neurosurgeon, Dr. Jallow has spent his career perfecting his surgical practice to operate upon and treat children suffering from some of the most complex conditions of the brain and central nervous system. He's so practiced that he's quite literally written the textbook on pediatric neurosurgery. It is these immense reservoirs of expertise and experience that lead so many families to entrust the lives of their children to Dr. Jallow's care, and the Goldenbergs are among them. In 2004, Dr. Jallow operated on David's granddaughter Rachel for a spinal tumor when she was just 5 years old. The operation was successful, and I understand that Rachel is now a thriving adult. This endowed chair will ensure that Dr. Jallow and the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences he leads will continue to set new standards of pediatric clinical care and to pursue innovations that will make conditions once regarded as incurable, curable. It is one more way he is helping this hospital to fulfill its mission of widening the boundaries of pediatric medicine in order to afford all children the highest quality of life possible. And it is a mission built, as always, atop an often unrelenting, invisible mountain of lonely, painstaking experimentation. To Dr. Goldenberg, your transformative gift demonstrates your immeasurable faith in the work of this institution and its people, a faith shared by so many families across the world. Thank you for your unwavering commitment to the future of life-saving pediatric medicine and to supporting true visionaries of the field like Dr. Jallow. Congratulations again.
I have the privilege to introduce the man and the family that made this all possible. Today, Dr. David Goldenberg and the Goldenberg Family Foundation embark on their legacy and commitment to the university, the School of Medicine, and Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital through the dedication of the David M. Goldenberg Family Foundation Endowed Chair within the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences and the installation of Dr. George Jallow as the inaugural recipient for this prestigious honor. Several years ago, Dr. Jallow introduced me to David as both a leader in research and medicine himself and a grateful grandfather he had met with through his work in Baltimore. Dr. Jallow also shared that he and David kept in touch discussing brain and spinal cord tumors, the role of immunotherapy, and research, among other things. As Dr. Jallow transitioned to St. Petersburg from Baltimore, David supported the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences as we built it under the direction and leadership of Dr. Jallow. As the years went by, David continued to support the growth of the hospital through generous gifts from the Goldenberg Family Foundation to the Institute. In the summer of 2019, I had the pleasure of first meeting David and Cynthia in person when I visited them at their summer residence in Mendham, New Jersey. We had a mix-up with the dinner date and the reservations, and they graciously ended up hosting me twice during my trip to the city. David even took this opportunity to introduce a neighbor and close family friend who was interested in supporting the hospital. David continues to help me with the strategy and growing support for the hospital, the children, and the families we serve. It was this weekend, just over 2 years ago, that we started this initial conversation about this transformative legacy gift. Today, the Goldenberg Family Foundation makes this a reality for children and for brain health. Dr. David Goldenberg is a man of many talents and can be described as a pioneer. He has countless accolades, and it would take longer than we have to do him justice, but I'm going to try. He is a son, a husband, a father, a grandfather, a physician, a researcher, a connector, the founder and president of the Center for Molecular Medicine and Immunology, holder of numerous associate professor positions, founder, chairman of the board, and chief scientist of Immunomedics, inventor and principal developer of FDA-approved treatments for cancer. He is a publisher and a collaborator on countless articles, and he is the recipient of over 300 US patents, and the list goes on and on. But most importantly today, David is also a philanthropist, and one that I am honored to introduce to you all as he and his family leave their legacy through this prestigious endowed gift to support the children and the families we serve and this institution. Thank you, David, and thank you, Goldenberg Family Foundation, for all that you do, for making this all possible and bringing prestige and honor to the organization through this transformational gift.
Our family's gift to the Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital is a debut of our newly established foundation to support science, medicine, education, and similar philanthropic causes. The interest in brain sciences stems from our family experiencing brain and spinal cord cancers in 2 of our grandchildren, as well as my curiosity and fascination with how we think and the basis of memory and higher mental functions. Currently, it's believed that the human brain has 86 billion neurons, but it is only a little more than a century since the prominent Spanish neuroanatomist and Nobel laureate Santiago Ramon y Cajal identified neurons, showing how they grow and create connections that explain learning. When I went to medical school, the dogma was that damage to these neurons of the brain and spinal cord could not be repaired, but this has since been contradicted. This is one of the most exciting new frontiers of medicine. Having an institute devoted to brain protection sciences is certainly inclusive of studying these important aspects of brain physiology and pathology. Who could better appreciate this than an academic neurosurgeon? George Jallow, in my view, not only contributes eminently to pediatric patient management, but also to the academic advancement of one of the most challenging areas of medicine, where the nature of the lesion and how it is removed affect the patient's physical, emotional, and intellectual destiny. Indeed, the behavior resulting from brain injury provides the neuroscientists with a basis to study normal brain function, addressing fundamental aspects of how neurons work and communicate with each other to create thoughts and the basis of human invention, even when we are not fully conscious. How are neurons activated or inhibited to control behavior? How do they provide messages to the brain? Can we now progress to develop methods of neuronal repair and regeneration? These are but a few of the challenging questions that this new institute could research. I'm confident that Dr. Jallow will foster such interest in his program. Indeed, his talent and commitment have advanced the science of the many pathologies affecting the brain and its complex neuronal makeup, as evidenced by the books he has edited and the book chapters and articles he has authored. To me, this is a fascinating subject, and we would like to remain involved and committed, especially to fundamental questions of brain science. I would like to recognize Dean Rothman and his administration at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore for your devotion to advancing academic medicine as part of the mission of this freestanding children's hospital that is a unique yet integrated member of Johns Hopkins Medicine. I first met Paul Rothman 3 years ago in Baltimore at a professional promotion recognition event held the year following my son's promotion to the rank of full professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. Dean Rothman and I have a few things in common. So-called New York accents from Brooklyn and Queens, and scientific backgrounds in cellular and molecular immunology and the study of antibodies. On behalf of my family, I would like to thank your hospital's foundation, especially Ashley Null and her colleagues, for bringing this opportunity to us and making the process so smooth. I know firsthand the efforts and sometimes frustrations behind the scene, even when you have an interested donor, especially during the disruption caused by the current pandemic. George, congratulations. It's an honor to support your work. Thank you for continuing to advance the care of children with brain and spinal cord conditions, and for your devotion to pediatric brain protection sciences. I truly hope this is a continuation of our family's relationship to George and to Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, and its commitment to excellence in patient care, teaching, and research.
I'm delighted and honored to be able to introduce George Jallow to all of you. I've known George for a long while, and just to give you a little bit of background, George was born in Bethlehem. He did his undergraduate work at George Washington Medical School at UVA, and then trained from 1992 to 1999 at NYU Medical Center. He trained under the legendary leaders Joe Ransohoff in neurosurgery and Fred Epstein in pediatric neurosurgery, and then spine tumor neurosurgery. In 2003, after being on the faculty at NYU and at Einstein, we recruited him to our faculty here at Hopkins. And I must say, it's one of the proudest and best recruits of my career. To be truthful, we knew that George was a spectacular surgeon and spectacular and wonderful person and spectacular neurosurgeon. And we really needed a person to just work very hard and take care of the huge number of pediatric neurosurgical patients that we had at Johns Hopkins. And he accepted the job as working with Dr. Ben Carson, who was the chief of neurosurgery. When I interviewed George, he said that the reason he was coming from NYU is that he was very attracted by the academics at Johns Hopkins, and that he wanted to really see if he could flourish as an academician as well as a pediatric neurosurgeon. And to be honest with you, I thought that might happen, it might not happen. but he certainly was a spectacular surgeon. We really needed someone of his caliber and expertise and devotion to pediatric neurosurgery. So he has turned out to be an incredible surgeon. He's a surgeon. He has referrals when he was at Hopkins and at All Children's from all over the world, from other neurosurgeons who seek out his expertise and his surgical excellence. But surprising to me, and I was so delighted, he turned out to be an extraordinary scientist as well. He's published over 215 peer-reviewed papers, 23 review articles, 39 case reports, 102 chapters, and 8 books about neurosurgery and pediatric neurosurgery. He quickly rose to full professor in the very rigorous system at Johns Hopkins, and was appointed full professor 7 years after he joined our faculty, in recognition of his outstanding contributions to science, as well as an innovative pediatric neurosurgeon. But I think the reason he's being honored today is about his leadership. And it's a extraordinary, humble leadership. He truly defines a servant leader. And I'll give you a few examples of that. Firstly, he was clear that he was a leader when working in pediatric neurosurgery. He completely reorganized our pediatric neurosurgery chaos that we had into an organized, beautiful, well-run service. In 2007, 4 years after he joined us, he became the program director and led the neurosurgery residency at Johns Hopkins to be the #1 residency in the country under his leadership. He did that for 6 years and trained his successor, Judy Wang, who is our program director today as well. Some examples of his extraordinary quiet leadership that I'd like to share with you is that in 2010, when he was promoted to full professor, I met with him and I congratulated him. And I said that we had a tradition in the party that in the department, that we have a party celebrating the achievement of the full professorship. And that I was looking for dates when to have a party about George Jallow for the department to celebrate. And he was very emphatic and very firm with me. And he said, absolutely not. I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want a party about me. And I said, George, it's not about you. It's about celebrating the achievements so other people can role model what you've done. And he said, I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want a party. I'm very firm about it. And he said, let me ask you something, Henry. How much would a party like that cost? And I said, I don't know, whatever. And he said, let's say it's $10,000, $15,000. And I said, okay. And he said, give that to, he named an assistant professor who in his first year had lost money. He said, give it to him as a bonus. Take that money that you would use for the party and just, even though it's outside the normal comp program, put it in and encourage him so that he feels recognized and appreciated. And I just thought, well, that's truly extraordinary. Later that year, Ben Carson, who is the world famous director and chief of pediatric neurosurgery, came to me and he said he's concerned that George is is now full professor. He should really be given the advancement and be named the chief of pediatric neurosurgery at Hopkins. And Ben felt he had served in that role for many years and he didn't need the title, but that it would be important to recognize George's leadership. And so I again called for a meeting with George and I told him the congratulations that Ben had resigned as chief of pediatric neurosurgery and that I was appointing him as the chief. And he said, absolutely not. He said, we are better off having Ben Carson in that position. Patients come to him for that. It's good. He said, I don't mind being the #2 guy. I'm very, very happy. I don't want the title. And he refused. And again, for a neurosurgeon, incredible humility. Well, in 2013, Ben did resign. And, the rest, we know what happened to him. And of course, George did become the chief of pediatric neurosurgery and led it to even greater heights. 12 years after he joined our faculty in Baltimore, he was enticed to come to All Children's to be the director of the Institute of Brain Protective Sciences and the chief of pediatric neurosurgery there. And while I was sad to lose him in the day-to-day working here in Baltimore, I was thrilled that he was really elevating to a new leadership opportunity and a real chance to really lead and take that area of Johns Hopkins to new heights. As you all know, that in a few years later, when there was problems at All Children's, everybody there knew George well enough that knew that true leadership and true sort of moral high ground and ethical behavior at the highest level was represented in George. And he was made physician in chief and the vice dean for Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, which are really unprecedented positions for a neurosurgeon. So it is with great admiration that I join all of you today in celebrating our truly humble but extraordinary leader, extraordinary clinician, scientist, and true leader, George Jallow. Thank you very much.
You just heard from several people about Dr. Jallow's impressive career. George, we continue to be amazed by what you do for your patients, for your amazing research, and for the students you teach and mentor. On behalf of the School of Medicine, I'm pleased to present this medallion to you as a symbol of this honor and in celebration of your installation as the inaugural recipient of the David M. Goldenberg Family Endowed Chair in the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. George, congratulations.
I would like to begin by thanking David, Dr. Goldenberg, and the Goldenberg Family Foundation for their magnificent bequest to the university, the School of Medicine, and Johns Hopkins All Children's in bestowing this extraordinary award on me. I would also like to thank President Daniels, Dean Rothman, Alicia Schulhoff, and everyone attending this hybrid event today. Henry, Dr. Brem, thank you for your kind words. I am indebted for all that you have done for my personal and professional development. In 2002, you took a huge gamble hiring this young, unproven talent as the second pediatric neurosurgeon to work alongside Dr. Ben Carson at Johns Hopkins Hospital. I vividly remember our conversation in your office about transitioning to full-time academics, basic science bench research, neurosurgery, teaching, work-life balance, and larger-than-life pediatric neurosurgeons. It is your leadership that has allowed me to flourish and to become the person who I am today. You have been a wonderful mentor and friend all these years. I know that I've learned much more than just pediatric neurosurgery in the 18 years that I have been a member of the Department of Neurosurgery, and I'm grateful to you and all my wonderful colleagues, Ben, John, Raphael, Judy, Cheatham, as well as one of the largest teams of pediatric neurosurgeons in the country, Al, Dodie, Eric, Mari, Matt, Luis, and Lynn. I must mention the other members of the department who have since departed, but who have become lifelong friends, Alex, Zia, Jean-Paul, Alfredo, and Kai, and the many others unmentioned who have helped shape me. I also would not be here today if I did not meet David's granddaughter, Rachel, 17 years ago next month in Dr. Ben Carson's clinic. Rachel was consulting with Ben for her newly diagnosed spinal cord tumor. Dennis, Rachel's dad, recalls bringing his 5-year-old daughter to Baltimore and Dr. Carson saying, "I have the most experienced surgeon, albeit younger, and no gray hair at that time for this delicate operation." That was my first introduction to Rachel, her parents, and her rare tumor. I had long, detailed conversations with her parents and her grandparents about the high risks of spinal cord surgery, which are forever etched in my mind. David and I had further discussions about brain and spinal cord tumors, head injury, and the role of immunotherapy when I was in Baltimore. These exchanges continued years later, even after my transition to All Children's in 2015 to lead the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. Thank you, David, for supporting me and the Institute so faithfully all this time. Ashley, thank you for supporting IBPS and bringing both Dr. Goldenberg and my dream to fruition. To give a little background about my professional journey, I was fortunate enough to do my residency and my fellowship at NYU and Beth Israel with my earliest mentor, Fred Epstein, who's regarded as one of the pioneers and the founding fathers in the field of pediatric neurosurgery. He was an innovative brainstem and spinal cord tumor surgeon who taught me how to safely remove these intricate tumors with very little room for margin of error. In the 1990s, this was uncharted surgery, and I can recall presenting at our experience at many national and international meetings. The audience of surgeons thinking I was one uneducated resident and fellow because they could not and did not believe there was a role for aggressive surgery in the long-term outcomes for these children. I felt my early career path or trajectory was like the original Star Trek theme song, to boldly go where no man or woman has ever gone before. At the same time in my pediatric neurosurgery fellowship, I met another mentor who I did not realize was a mentor until years later. This international fellow, Karl Kaufbauer, was an Austrian but Swiss-trained neurosurgeon who came to New York to be on the frontier of surgical innovation. The only hurdle was my New York personality and Karl's rigid training. We were truly an odd couple, as we certainly could not have been more different. With time, we became partners, authors, editors of several pediatric neurosurgery textbooks, and best friends. Karl showed me the value of a comprehensive team approach to caring for children and their families. We grew up in the in model, as we called it, where I am still in contact with families and staff. It's been my lifelong dream to bring together surgeons, neurologists, psychologists, psychiatrists with the focus around the one organ, the child's brain, to provide a comprehensive, inclusive neurological care for all children. On my personal journey, I would not be here if my late parents, who did not speak a word of English, had not immigrated to the United States to raise 3 young boys. I am so grateful for all their sacrifices and the many wonderful ways they shaped the lives of 3 men. Michelle, thank you for all that you've done to support my professional career and being the glue that holds our family together. I certainly would not be the person I am today without you. Finally, I will summarize my life by our 3 children. To Max, our oldest child, I'm encouraged by your confidence, and this gives me the strength to continue each day at work and become the best pediatric neurosurgeon that I can be. To Nikki and Lexi, thank you for just being the twins that you are. Each day you amaze me with your unique and incredible bond. Lexi, your protective and nurturing reminds me to be supportive of others. And Nikki, your generosity is unparalleled to your peers. You shock me with how easily you share your last goldfish or Dorito. This unique character trait makes me want to be just like you. You are the true heroes. I wish I could spend every minute with you to learn and grow from you. In closing, my family, friends, colleagues, my patients and their families all have had a tremendous impact on my life and have made me a better person. Our lives have intertwined in different ways, but together we have forged relationships that have made an impact for the greater good. Because when we work together, there's no limit what we can achieve. When we share what we've learned with each other, stand beside and support one another, we triumph. For my personal credo, I once again reference Star Trek Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Things are only impossible until they are not. Thank you all for the role you have played in mine, for sharing this memorable event with me.
Thank you all for joining and attending the virtual dedication of Dr. George Jallow as our David N. Goldenberg Family Endowed Chair in the Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. And congratulations, George, on this achievement. We look forward to your continued leadership, and thank you for all you do. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to this virtual installation of Dr. Neil Goldenberg as leader, researcher, and mentor at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. Today, we honor Dr. Goldenberg as an internationally recognized leader and mentor in pediatric clinical and translational research. Since 2012, he has worked diligently to create a culture of research and to build research enterprise on our St. Petersburg, Florida campus. He is also dedicated to exploring and documenting pediatric thrombosis and its impact on the health outcomes of our children. Establishing an endowment permanently alters the trajectory of people and programs which it supports. It is a way to grow and sustain financial stability for the professorship holder, allowing him to focus on the area in which he is most passionate and where he can affect the most change. Endowments also align our faculty with our most loyal donors and bring prestige and recognition to Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. This endowed professorship is the first bestowed under the direction of Johns Hopkins All Children's Foundation. The extraordinary investment of the Perry family estate was realized last year, and the foundation was entrusted with providing direction for this gift. We are so lucky that the philanthropy of the Perry family, when joined with the foundation, produced this incredible way to recognize Dr. Goldenberg as the inaugural Perry Family Endowed Professor in Clinical and Translational Research. You will hear directly from the foundation during this program and what inspired their endorsement of Dr. Goldenberg. As a relatively new member of the Johns Hopkins Medicine family, we are thrilled to establish and carry forth our own unique tradition of endowing faculty members who also hold joint appointments with the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. Dedications bring together the leaders within the larger Johns Hopkins Medicine family. So thank you, President Ronald Daniels, Dean Paul Rothman, and Vice Dean Dr. Landon King for the special remarks you will share about Dr. Goldenberg. Dr. Goldenberg is fondly known as the man of firsts here at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. Full of energy and passion, he was the first to receive NIH funding here in Florida, and he put us on the map for research. In fact, many have described him as our homegrown hero, as all of his work towards professor was with his passion, energy, and commitment here at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. Equal to his commitment to research is also his commitment to family. I am honored to work and partner with him. Before we celebrate Dr. Neil Goldenberg, I invite Dean Rothman for the official presentation of the endowed professorship to the university.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you all for joining us. On behalf of Johns Hopkins Medicine, I'm honored to join you today to celebrate the dedication of the Perry Family Endowed Professor in Clinical and Translational Research and the installation of its inaugural professor, Dr. Neil Goldenberg. Endowed professorships are among the highest honors Johns Hopkins Medicine can bestow upon our faculty. These professorships are vital to our tripartite mission of teaching, research, and clinical care. They allow us to retain our best faculty, and they are absolutely critical to our current and future success, enabling the institution to continue its forward progress even in challenging times such as these. Many of the men and women who hold endowed professorships are wonderful clinicians. They also conduct some of our most significant research and attract some of our most promising students. Their work in each of these areas brings great prestige to our institution. It is private philanthropy that makes such opportunities possible. The extraordinary generosity of the Perry family and the strategic support and direction of the foundation has allowed us to establish this endowed professorship. I would like now to turn to the recipient of this wonderful gift, Neil Goldenberg, who's just a wonderful person, a great professor, and a great clinician. Over his tenure, Neil has devoted himself to growing and building research at All Children's. So it seems only fitting that today Neil will be inducted as a Perry Family Endowed Professor in Clinical and Translational Research. Neil has been at Johns Hopkins for 9 years now, and over that time he has epitomized the ideals of the institution, caring for patients in need, working to advance our scientific understanding, and educating and mentoring the next generation of clinicians and researchers. Neil is currently Associate Dean for Research at All Children's Hospital, as well as the Director of the All Children's Institute for Clinical and Translational Research. In addition, he is Professor of Pediatrics and Medicine at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. Over his tenure at All Children's, Neil has helped us make progress in all facets of our mission. He is internationally recognized for his expertise and accomplishments in designing and conducting multi-center clinical trials with a focus on children's health. I know that he will hear this many times today, but Neil, we are so honored to have you on our faculty. Neil has many goals, but I know that he's particularly focused on helping children who are dealing with complex blood clotting disorders. I'm confident that his professorship will help him achieve that worthy goal. Neil, please accept my congratulations of the establishment of this professorship. You thoroughly deserve this wonderful honor. Because the endowment is held and administered by the university trustees, professorships are formally presented to the university. For that, I'm going to turn things over to President Ron Daniels, who will say a few words. Ron?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry I can't join you in person for this event, but I'm delighted to be able to celebrate Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital and Dr. Neil Goldenberg on this wonderful occasion. And to do so along so many friends, colleagues, and supporters, including Dean Rothman, President of Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, Alicia Shuloff, and former pediatrician-in-chief of the Johns Hopkins Hospital, and a mentor to Dr. Goldenberg, George Dover. It is my pleasure and privilege to accept formally the Perry Family Endowed Professorship in Clinical and Translational Research. Almost 170 years ago, in 1853, a German doctor named Abraham Jacobi emigrated to New York. He quickly set up a medical practice which brought him into direct and intimate contact with the numerous health problems plaguing the city's residents. Most distressing for him, however, was the extensive suffering of children. Indeed, in the mid-19th century, the mortality rate of children rose by some estimates to nearly 40%, driven by the ubiquity of gastrointestinal and respiratory conditions, along with other infectious diseases like scarlet fever. Dr. Jacobi believed that the care of children lay at the very foundations of what it meant to be not just a human, but as he put it, a humane society. In his eyes, it was agonizingly clear that the United States and its nascent medical establishment were failing children. And when children were being treated and studied, they were only considered, as in Dr. Jacobi's words, miniature men and women, and were not seen, as he was keen to do, as singular individuals at a distinctive stage of life. To answer this tragic neglect, Dr. Jacobi launched himself into the study of childhood physiology and disease. He lectured to the public and to fellow physicians. He published hundreds of papers. He helped establish research institutions and professorships devoted exclusively to the study of children. And out of these efforts emerged an entirely new field of medicine, pediatrics. All Children's Hospital is an embodiment of Dr. Jacobi's remarkable legacy and an institution that continues day after day to deliver on the profound promise of pediatrics to treat and care for infants and children. And it pursues this promise at the lab bench as well as the bedside. Now, few exemplify that mission more fully than Dr. Neil Goldenberg. Director of Research since 2012, Dr. Goldenberg has helped to expand the research capacities of All Children's Hospital and in the process not only improved the lives of countless children, but also laid the groundwork for countless more to be aided by future research endeavors. A hematologist by training, Dr. Goldenberg recognized years ago that even though 1 in 200 hospitalized children develop blood clots, there was no robust data set to evaluate the efficacy of treatments. This meant that too many children were being treated with insufficient information. In fact, they were frequently being treated not as children, but as miniature adults. To answer this problem, Dr. Goldenberg launched the Kids.Trial, a landmark multinational randomized clinical trial to determine how long blood thinners ought to be used for children with thrombosis. The results have already begun to reshape thinking in the field. But just as important as the trial itself is the research infrastructure that Dr. Goldenberg has helped to build here at All Children's. This ranges from developing new research pathways for residents, fellows, and junior faculty, to making All Children's a leader in pediatric biobanking, to helping establish the Institute for Clinical and Translational Research, an interdisciplinary initiative committed to bringing together researchers from across the enterprise who are pursuing clinical and translational projects. This professorship is both a recognition of the vital contributions Dr. Goldenberg has already made to this institution and to pediatric research more broadly, as well as a foundation ensuring that pioneering clinical research combined with compassionate care will continue to flourish at All Children's Hospital. And of course, all of this is done in the service of improving children's lives and, in the words of Abraham Jacobi, achieving a more healthful and humane society. To Dr. Goldenberg and everyone at All Children's Hospital, thank you for all that you have done and will continue to do for our institution, and congratulations.
In my role at Johns Hopkins All Children's Foundation, I have the honor of stewarding gifts from people with a dedication to our hospital. They seek out ways to make an impact on families under our care. On occasion, we receive philanthropy with the potential to be truly transformational. The Perry family estate made such a gift. What is even more incredible is that though we never personally met, they entrusted us with their investment by placing no restrictions, allowing our team to best determine how to steward their donation. In moments such as this, the foundation and hospital and our boards have the responsibility of determining a proper designation based on our institutional priorities. We do have the choice to apply funds like this to our greatest need generically, or we have the option of making an investment and a commitment to areas where we wish to see advancements and into people. Research has increasingly become a foundation priority. When we received notification of the Perry family estate gift, I immediately thought of how much Dr. Goldenberg has brought to our institution and how a designation of this fund to research and to a professorship for Dr. Goldenberg would be transformational to Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. The Perry family estate just about equaled our threshold for funding a professorship. So the foundation made the decision to designate an additional investment from our unrestricted support to round out the funding to establish this professorship. Neil and I both began our journeys at what was then All Children's back in 2012. And over the past years, our paths have crossed many times. As Neil has poured himself into his expertise in building a world-class research enterprise on our campus, I've had the opportunity with the foundation team to raise funds and direct donations toward research, having the utmost confidence that our programs under Neil's direction would do astonishing things. Neil is dedicated. Neil is resolved. Neil explains his work and structure and process, and this always makes me think that Neil is an educator. Neil is an innovator and a partner and someone who can vision our future and is taking us down that path to achieve success, secure external grants, join national cohorts, and recruit great minds to our faculty. Neil is a friend and someone who cares about connections and relationships. And I am proud to call Neil my friend. On behalf of the foundation, its board of trustees, and the Perry family, I want to offer our sincere congratulations to Dr. Neil Goldenberg on this achievement.
It's a great privilege to be with you today to celebrate Neil's installation as the Perry Family Endowed Professor in Clinical and Translational Research. I have vivid memories of our excitement when we were able to lure Neil out of Colorado to come to All Children's Hospital. He joined at a pivotal time in the development of our relationship and the aspirations that we share at All Children's Hospital. There was a strong interest in developing a clinical research platform that would be impactful for our patients and impactful for science, both as an opportunity to deliver care, but also as a distinguishing feature of an academic medical center. This requires great skill, both in managing and inspiring people, and with regard to technical aspects of clinical investigation and clinical trials, which is highly challenging. Clinical investigation is a team sport. In fact, it's a contact sport. Not only do you have to be able to engage with our patients and your colleagues, but in fact, you get knocked down along the way while trying to make good things happen on behalf of our patients. Neil brought all of those skills to bear in executing on his job at All Children's. It's been an incredible privilege to work with him as a colleague and friend, and we are so grateful for the work that he has done in advancing our mission, and extremely excited about this opportunity for him. Thank you.
It is my great pleasure to have the opportunity to introduce Neil Goldenberg as the inaugural recipient of the Perry Family Endowed Professorship in Clinical and Translational Research. Dr. Goldenberg is currently Professor of Pediatrics and Medicine, Divisions of Hematology, the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, and Director of Research and Associate Dean for Research at the Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. He attended Williams College, medical school at McGill University. His internship and residency was at the University of South Florida, Hematology Oncology Fellowship at the University of Colorado, and he received his PhD in clinical investigation at the same institution. He became an assistant professor of pediatrics and medicine at the University of Colorado in 2005. By 2010, he had been promoted to associate professor, director of clinical research, and co-director of the Mountain States Regional Hemophilia and Treatment Center. He also served as the interim director of the Clinical Trials Organization for the Children's Hospital. In 2012, we were lucky enough to recruit him to be the director of research at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital and associate professor in pediatrics and medicine at Johns Hopkins. By 2017, he had risen to the rank of professor. I'd like to look at where investigative careers began. Dr. Goldenberg's first publication in medical training was a paper on markers of coagulation and venous thromboembolism published in 2003. Within a year, he, Dr. Manco Johnson, and others had published in the New England Journal on the prognostic value of elevated factor VIII and D dimers in children with thrombosis. He'd also teamed with Dr. Hathaway and Manco Johnson to explore a global assay of coagulation and fibrinolysis. What followed was a string of papers very tightly focused in the area of thrombosis and these early interests, including a burgeoning interest in stroke published in excellent journals. He's authored over 100 peer-reviewed articles and numerous book chapters. He is a co-editor of one of the few pediatric textbooks on thrombotic disorders. More recently, and to his credit, his publications reflect the many interests of junior investigators that he has mentored. I met Neil when he was very early in his career as a fellow. Several things have stood out to me since. For one, his organizational skills at both the micro and macro level, including the ability to bring multiple investigators together. Two, his intense interest in trainees at all levels of development and fierce belief and support of them, which has been translated into organized systems and programs for training based on his own experience. Third, his reverence for the underlying methodology necessary to conduct good clinical research. And fourth, that I've never heard him say a bad word about anyone. He maintains a consistent attitude of goodwill in his work that is truly inspirational. It has given me great pleasure to see him become a foremost expert in thrombosis and stroke in children. His accomplishments include helping hospitals deal with the difficult issue of preventing thrombosis in children and using new agents for anticoagulation. He's been involved in the production of essentially all of the important national and international thrombosis guidelines. He's conducted one of the few NIH-funded multi-center clinical trials of thrombosis in children, while doing a tremendous job organizing the clinical research apparatus at All Children's Hospital and serving as a director and co-director of the pediatric thrombosis and stroke programs at both JHU and ACH, respectively. I cannot think of a more deserving first recipient of the Perry Family Endowed Professorship. Neil, I just wanted to add my personal congratulations on you achieving this milestone and joining the ranks of endowed professors at Johns Hopkins. It really is a tremendous event. I also wanted to mention that Dr. Dover felt very badly. He could not be here, and I want to offer his well wishes as well.
It's wonderful to hear from people who know Neil best and appreciate the incredible impact he's had at All Children's. Neil, Thank you for embodying the Hopkins ethos and devoting yourself so fully to your patients, to your research, and to the students and trainees here. On behalf of the School of Medicine, I'm pleased to present this medallion to you as a symbol of this honor and in celebration of your installation as the inaugural recipient of the Perry Family Endowed Professorship in Clinical and Translational Research.
It's such an honor to receive the Perry Family Endowed Professorship in Clinical and Translational Research. And it's important to recognize that this endowed professorship is truly in recognition of the tremendous collaboration, efforts, and support of many individuals. There isn't enough time to recognize the contributions made by so many, but I'll try to highlight several. First, although we don't always shine a spotlight on it, the behind-the-scenes support and sacrifices made by our spouses, children, and parents are often critical to the success that each of us achieves in pursuing our goals and in making an impact through our professional work. My wife, Ann, has been CEO of our household and parent-in-chief, and it's in no small part because of these critical roles that she's held for more than 15 years that I've been able to devote the additional night and weekend hours required to take on challenges in academic medicine that seek to improve the lives of children. Thank you, Ann. You share this professorship with us. My three boys have, for the most part, been patient with the work-life integration, even if a lot of it has been when they're asleep or when they're supposed to be asleep. And it's thanks to them and to Ann that vacations are planned off the grid for family bonding, fun, and the R&R that help refill the tank and make the academic medical career durable and sustainable. Noah, Zach, and Cole, you share this professorship with us as well, even though you haven't yet graduated from high school. And yes, you still need to finish and then go on to college and then grad school. Whatever is your passion, you'll be incredibly fortunate if your profession in life enables you to pursue your passions and have impact. My parents, David Goldenberg and Hildegard Katz, instilled in their now greater than middle-age adult children the importance of continuous education, hard work, and sacrifice, but also of celebrating the joys once in a while. And as a young child, I listened and observed carefully. My father has studied and advocated for monoclonal antibodies as potential therapies for a variety of diseases since the 1970s. And I joke, although maybe it's true, that one of my first words as a toddler was monoclonal. Mom and Dad, you share this professorship with us. Although there are too many mentors, advisors, and supportive leaders to recognize without putting you to sleep, those of you who aren't already asleep, I'm going to highlight some of the first and most recent ones. Dr. Phil Gold, Dr. Susan Kahn, late Dr. Susan Solomus, all while I was a med student at McGill, and Dr. Phil Altus during my combined residency in Med Peds. All were instrumental in supporting and inspiring a future clinical and translational scientist and clinical trialist during a formative period. Without the two Susans and Phil Gold, I would never have launched, much less completed, my first ambitious study at 3 Montreal hospitals, whose ultimate publication, after 2 years of revisions and 3 resubmissions, lit a spark that is still going today. And without Phil Altus, I may never have recognized the importance and excitement of clinical trials as the key evidence that informs the clinical care of our patients. Every time he cited the results from each of the recent and historical vascular disease trials of blood pressure control, diabetes, cholesterol management in adults, and their applicability to the patients we saw together in his clinic, I thought to myself that I would love to be one of the academic physicians who designs and implements these trials and who analyzes, interprets, and publishes their findings. To the two Susans and the two Phils, you share this professorship with us. More recently, I benefited tremendously from the mentorship of the late Dr. Will Hyatt of Colorado, who continued to show me a great example of how to design, run, and report clinical trials in an academic research environment, and from Dr. George Dover, former 20-year chair of pediatrics at Hopkins, who has continued to be a source of advice and inspiration, and whose appreciation of everyone who contributes to the research, education, and training missions is infectious. And I continue to have one of the best bosses, supporters, and colleagues in Dr. George Jallow, who is the incredibly deserving and humble inaugural recipient today of the endowed chair in the Johns Hopkins All Children's Institute for Brain Protection Sciences. To Will and the two Georges, thank you. You share this professorship with us. I've saved some of the most important individuals for next to last, those early career faculty who I have the privilege of calling mentees. I'm tremendously fortunate to be at an institution and in a position where I can make an impact by supporting the next generation of child health-focused physician scientists to continually refine their career development and training plans and partner with them in designing studies that they lead in a broad array of pediatric disciplines, from hospital medicine to hematology, neurology, critical care medicine, and beyond. Not surprisingly, it's through the daily interaction with these mentees that I keep learning, growing, and refueling my passion for pediatric clinical and translational research. I'm tremendously fortunate to have recently completed a decade-long multinational clinical trial that is changing the standard of care for children and young adults who develop blood clots in their deep veins, so-called venous thromboembolism, or VTE. With the obesity epidemic and now the COVID-19 pandemic, a brighter light has been shown on VTE and its sometimes life-threatening course. While I won't be stepping away from playing my part in leading future studies in pediatric thrombosis and stroke, it's more important than ever to increasingly focus time working with mentees to lead studies in their areas of clinical expertise. Mentorship is the great force multiplier, and this professorship recognizes and will help realize that opportunity. To my mentees in pediatric clinical and translational research, I share this professorship with you. In closing, I want to deeply thank the Perry family for their extremely generous gift that endows this professorship, and in so doing endows Johns Hopkins All Children's with critical support needed to sustain and enhance its clinical and translational research mission. A gift that enables and inspires us to continue to lead the design and execution of innovative clinical and translational research studies that inform future improvements in the care of healthy children and children with acute and chronic illnesses. And a gift that enables and inspires us to continue to train and mentor the next generation of leaders in pediatric clinical and translational research. Thank you, Perry family, for this legacy for Johns Hopkins All Children's and Johns Hopkins Medicine that bears your name. And thank you all who are attending this event for sharing this moment with us and joining us on this journey. Though much has been accomplished, our work has just begun.
Thank you all for attending the virtual dedication of Dr. Neil Goldenberg as our Perry Family Endowed Professor in Clinical and Translational Research. And congratulations, Neil, on this achievement. Your continued success in research and its impact upon pediatric medicine is something we are all looking forward to celebrating. Thank you so very much. Have a wonderful and safe rest of your afternoon.